I want to pray all of the time. I want to be with God, and I want to be with my children and with the people I love. And to tell people to do what it says in the Great Commission. Tell people in a language that they'll understand, God is real, Christ is real. Stop worshiping the world. You're going to die. You're going to die, and it's all meaningless. All of us, evidently, all of us have experienced grief and death. I can't even get through the death of my dog.
You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die one day. This life is but a vapor. Like it's going to pass you by. Either you're going to be dead or Jesus is going to be returning. And either way, you're standing before him and you're like, God, I'm so sorry. I wish I knew. I wish I had more time. Just give me a second chance. Like you're going to be like, frick, I could have done more. I think no matter what, you're going to be doing that. If you're talking about investments and retirement, the best investment you can make is an eternal one. Everybody, welcome to Unfinished, the podcast where we just talk about a little bit of everything. We're going to be diving in today to Russell Brand's video with Tucker Carlson. I think everybody knows Russell Brand and probably Tucker Carlson at this point. So we're going to be reacting to some of that stuff. But before we get there, Fearless LA, our church, is we have a really historic moment that we're in LA. So I've been with Fearless for 14 years. And when I came, they used to have this saying, we want to influence the influencers. This group of 30 people moved here from Northern California, packed up their bags. They'd moved to LA to start this church in LA to really, it's very missional, right? They moved into a city that they were not from, believing to do something that would make a radical shift in culture, because they say, like, so goes California, so goes the world, like especially Hollywood and what comes out of Hollywood, what's produced, the stories, the mecca of the voice of the world is produced in Hollywood right now. Maybe that's shifting a little bit with the day and age we're in, and podcasts and things are all over and things are much more remote. But really, people would still say like Hollywood's one of those central hubs of the world for film and media and all these things. And so, you know, I actually heard an amazing thing that a venture capitalist told Pastor Jeremy the other day when we're talking about this building that we're trying to get in Hollywood. And he said to him, you know, where is the devil? Where does he live? And, you know, you're first like, well, hell, I guess. It says, no, well, the Bible says he is roaming the earth, right? And it says like he's not omnipresent. He's not everywhere at once, right? Now he has a legion of demons, so he sent those out, and those are in places. But like, where is the devil at any given time? It's an interesting thing to think about, right?
And I kind of see where you're going with this, is like being an influencer of the influencers. Of course, the devil.
Well, okay, so why did the devil get kicked out of heaven?
For wanting to be like God and disobeying.
Because of pride, right? And vanity. He thought he was so great. He was the head angel, like the archangel. He was, he had this massive, and he wanted it all to be about him. He wanted the light to be shined on him. Well, where in our world today is that same spirit carried? In Hollywood, everything is about the individual. People move here to be like, I want to be the celebrity. I want to be the guy. So he was like, so that is the original sin and the original spirit that the enemy carried, was this thing of pride, right? Yeah. And now we have one of the central hubs of pride in our world, and vanity is Hollywood.
Yeah.
So the devil has walked the streets of Hollywood. You don't think the devil's walked the streets of Hollywood Boulevard?
Of course. And if you took a walk there, if you walk there yourself, you'll even see it.
But like the real manifestation of the real devil roams the earth. So he's walked in places, right? Where does he walk? Why does he go there? And that's just a pretty wild thing to consider. And I think, so anyway, so Fearless came here in 2012. They started the church in 2013. I met them in 2012 here, a group of 30 people, storage unit, met them. Word from God like I've never had before, saying, these are the people I'm calling you to. And then I just began serving at this church, and we were we started this church in downtown LA. We were in nightclubs for like a year, maybe or so, every week, a different nightclub all around Hollywood. We actually started in Hollywood at Club Avalon.
Wow.
Then we were at the Belasco Theater in downtown. Then we were at, I don't know, every venue, Exchange. 20 different Club Lure, and all these different venues on tour.
For how many years?
I think it was about a year.
Okay.
And then we got this opportunity through Club Exchange LA on Spring Street in downtown that said, hey, do you want to come every week? And you could store your gear in our building, which for us was just crazy. Because first of all, trying to start a church and being on a different location every week, and sometimes you don't know until Saturday night. You're like trying to lock down a venue, and they're expensive to rent these places in LA. And they said they wanted us there. They gave us this open door. So like, man, we have a stable location. That was the first big miracle, was like, we can stay in one place and just tell the church, you don't have to guess where we're going to be on Sunday. So we started to see some growth there. Also not having to unload and load a truck. You still had to set up and tear down every week, but not loading it in trucks and driving it off site. And I think we had like 3 trucks stolen over that time.
Wow.
Like, yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, LA's ghetto, dude. And so
that's crazy.
Eventually Josue used to just sleep in the truck overnight before Sunday.
Really?
To make sure the gear wasn't stolen before church. Yeah.
I got to talk to him about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I found out because like I used to do the truck stuff, and then like I had moved on to another area doing something else, and then Sway took over, set up and tear down. He would drive the truck, and I was like, and then we had started, because we used to just pick it up on Sunday mornings, but because of some of that, we decided we had to pick it up Saturday night. After a few months, I was like, what are we doing with the truck like on Saturday night? And Sway's like, I just sleep in it. And dude, these trucks are ghetto trucks. These aren't like nice trucker trucks. They have a bed in the back. Like it's just like a ghetto seat, like an 80s truck. It's so rough. I was like, you can't lay down. You can't you just have to like, and I was, first of all, like, dude, sleeping in that truck, like I'd be scared. Like sitting in down, like anybody could just show up to that truck. He's so humble.
What a sacrifice. Yeah, that's cool.
Bro. And he never said anything. That's what's so cool. He never said
That's
anything.
cool, yeah.
No, so anyway, we did that. That was the first big thing, was like, wow, we have a permanent kind of venue. We know we're going to be there on Sundays, except for every now and then. One time they had like Snoop Dogg's birthday party there. So they called us and they're like, hey, can you move this Sunday? It's Snoop Dogg's birthday party. And like, he's going to pay a lot for the venue. So like we had to go to a different venue because of Snoop Dogg's birthday party. But yeah, we were there, and then we were believing for a building. And then in 2019, I think we secured the building. We got a long-term lease on the building in downtown. So then that was like this next huge wave. We've been doing this about 5 years with the church, sitting up and tearing down, just being faithful with that, and then get a building. That's an incredible building, right off the 10 freeway. And man, so a huge growth. In fact, but the test was, we got the building. We had COVID happen right when we finished remodeling the building, and we couldn't even meet in it. We had to meet in a parking lot next door.
Even though we weren't supposed to, we still met up underneath the bridge.
The rule was you could stay if you stayed in your cars, but then we made an open area where people could just get out, and people were just like, if you're radical, you just got out and just
which everyone was.
yeah. And then so we had that building for like about 5 or 6 years. And then amazing things through that building. And then fire happens. We lose that building. And then we've been on tour for, man, it's got to be like at least 6-7 months now. Just different venues, trying to figure it out. We're in Hollywood High School. It's a pretty historic high school right now. But during this time, and I didn't actually know this until recently, but about 10 or 12 years ago, a woman in Australia gave a prophecy. And actually, Zach, I'm trying to find this real quick.
Yeah.
If you go to like Helping Hands, if you go to just go to our website and you'll find it on there somewhere. Just go to fearless.church, fearlessla.church. And then, what's one of those? But they'll have a video there. It's like the promo video that's going around, and it starts with this prophecy.
Those young people, they paid the price to break open West Hollywood, all the club district. They used to say it's the graveyard of the evangelists and the graveyard of the churches. But I want to say that church, Fearless, in LA, is going to have a great move of God that is going to touch the Hollywood industry, says the Lord.
An older woman came up to me after service and just had a word from the Lord and said, God wants a house. And I said, what does that mean, God? And he said, I want a place where you can wet the ground with your tears.
$40,000 square feet of venue space on Sunset Boulevard. I'm believing that this place will become a place that will house the Fearless Church, Fearless Creatives, Love More Theater, and we will change the world from the inside of Hollywood out. What's up, Fearless World? It's me and Christy here. Man, we are so excited because God is putting something in our heart. We've been on a journey, and you may not know about that journey all the way. We've been trying to just bring you in on it. Our building that we had that was amazing. God moved in powerful ways. About 2 years ago, had a fire in it, pushed us out. We've been on tour ever since, and God has opened a miracle building for us to step into as the Fearless family. And this is not just any building. This is a building with a lot of history, a lot of dark history, and what a story that we could have happen in a place like Hollywood.
Yes, it's on Sunset. It's right in the middle of everything. The artists are there, the creatives. I mean, there's all these businesses right here. I mean, it's in the
1938 it started.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Now it's
And, you know, with all the revivals that have happened, and Azusa Street Revival and Amy Simple McPherson, and there's just a new revival I believe that God is stirring to happen right in the epicenter of where everything takes place and influences the rest of the globe. And so, you know, we are believing that this is our building. Unless the Lord changes anything, we are believing that in faith. And so we would love for you, some of you call Fearless your home as a global, you just watch online, or maybe you just feel like, man, I want to invest and sow into something that is influencing this dark industry, Hollywood, and just bring the light. And so we have this campaign we are launching. We would love your prayers. We would love your support in any way you can. I mean, if you did a little or a lot, a little goes a long way, and we are going in phases with this, but to secure this building, just to secure it and take it off the market, it's going to be $1.5 million. And so we're believing that comes in the next couple of weeks so we can have that as our building. Then we have other phases to remodel. But if this is something that's on your heart, to see a church that is revival happen in the heart of Los Angeles, I believe that God wants to remove that stain that's been on Hollywood and Nickelodeon and all these things, and just bring hope to a community and hope to a city.
Yeah, especially in such a place like this.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't go to Hollywood, maybe you can't go to this area and change culture,
Right.
but God has called us there. And would you hold up our arms? Would you believe with us? Would you stand with us in faith that we have the title deed to this place, and believe that God could resurrect something crazy right here, and where the enemy says is his, the soil where the devil says, this place is mine, to feed the world, the filth and the disgust, and with everything that we know happens in our world. What a time as this for the Church of Jesus Christ to rise up and say, why not in Hollywood? Right? Why not now? Why not the Nickelodeon building? Let's believe for a great revival here. Thank you for praying about that. Thank you for partnering with us. We're calling it Harvest Hands. You can go to our website and see everything. I mean, we don't have time in this video to talk about all the reasons why we think this is the building. And so join with us, partner with us. We have a short amount of time. It's not a long time to just say, let's pull this thing off the market. Let's make this a church. Let's make this a beacon for hope right here. God bless you. We love you. Thanks for all the years of supporting what we do. We're believing for many more to come. Let's go.
But it's a woman who prophesied the Fearless would have a building on Sunset Boulevard, right? And PJ got this like 10, 12 years ago, and he's like, I have no idea. Like, she doesn't even know us. She doesn't know of a church called Fearless. It's a really random moment. She's prophesying all these things, and then she's like, and that church Fearless, and she doesn't even know Fearless. And it was just, she will have this next move of God. And what's crazy about LA is LA has had 4 major revivals of America in it. The Azusa Street Revival, the what are the other ones they had? Billy Graham's had his big revivals in LA. They've had the Amy Simple McPherson had her revival at Angelus Temple here. LA's actually been a hub for revival, which is pretty crazy to think about. And so it is ripe for this. Yeah, he has this thing. He stores it away in a Dropbox. He's like, I don't know when that's going to happen. It's such a specific prophecy, and you never know like what's going to come to fruition. But anyway, as we've been looking for a building this past year, because we just thought we might stay in that building for a long time, like the next 10 or 15 years, you know, but we were kind of outgrowing it. And then we were forcibly removed from this building because of fire codes, and we'd had a fire in the building and this whole thing. We're on tour. What's next? We've been looking at all these different buildings all around town. And then we get this building shows up, the Nickelodeon building. It's the old Nickelodeon building on Sunset Boulevard. Nickelodeon on Sunset was like a historic building. And then so they kind of have this open door, and then crazy enough, like PJ just like throws a Hail Mary offer. He's like, okay, we do 10 million. And they're like, do you have it? And he's like, nope, but we'll figure it out. And then the buildings, they do an estimate on the building. It's actually worth 17 million. The appraiser comes through, but they've accepted our offer for 10. So like we're getting a $17 million building for 10 million, but they need 2.5 million deposit. The bank does. And so then we can't get 2.5 million basically. And then we think the dream's going to die. And then they were like, hey, the owners of the building were like, what if we carry $1 million of your loan and you only have to raise 1.5? And now you're like, whoa, okay, this is starting to seem like it's actually possible. Like if they're going to front $1 million for us. So now we're in this huge campaign right now to raise this money. And this moment is now we're actually planting roots after 13 years with Fearless in LA, go from all these different venues, believing to have a home and having a home, but not our own home. We had to deal with landlords and all that. Now having your own place that you could own, and it hasn't happened yet. We're believing to raise 1.5. So if you haven't given, go to Fearless LA, go give to it. We're doing a big giving Sunday this Sunday for everybody to get behind it. Harvest hands, not helping hands. Harvest hands. And you're going to sow into the harvest in LA. And if you believe just what we talked about with LA being a region where the enemy has walked, where the devil likes to prowl like a lion, seeking who he can devour, seeking that the world would just worship themselves, right? And they would in vanity and in pride. And it's all about, and we're saying, no, we are going to come to LA. We're going to influence the influencers. And we are going to take this back, not for ourselves, but for Christ, and see radical salvations and change the industry from the inside out. That is the vision that Pastor Jeremy has been given by God. And we are full steam ahead with that vision. And man, and even just massive attack on the church in this past 6 months. And I think all of that is such a setup from the enemy to see like, man, he can feel what's going to happen. I mean, the enemy's been around just as long, right? Like he's not eternal like God. He was created, but he's been around for thousands of years himself. Like he knows the game. He can see patterns in the way the Lord's working. Like this might be a controversial thing to say, but the enemy probably knows better than you and I how the Lord works.
Sure.
He's been seeing the Lord work for a long time. So he's like, I could see when God's about to do something. And so he's like getting his demons ready to go to attack and go to war. And how does he do that? Through lying, manipulating, and deceiving those in the body of Christ, so they would get hurt and offended and leave and just cast judgment on one another. Division, and he does all these things, cause division so that we can't unify and be successful. So we need to be unified in these moments, unified in prayer. And there's going to be so many people who are going to get upset about, I can't believe you're trying to raise $1.5 million. You could use that for the missions field. And it's like, yeah, well, we're in a missions field.
Yeah.
You know,
Fearless is very missional based.
And a missions field like LA, is just super expensive. Like, if you don't think like, so people like get offended by some of that money stuff sometimes. You're like, well, dude, believe me, we're not wanting to spend that kind of, if we could do it for $100,000, if we could do it, we would. We're not trying to make it expensive. It's just expensive. So if you want to reach the city of LA and you have a home and a church for people, it's going to be expensive to do. And honestly, I mean, this is just such a miracle. Like the way all of these numbers are playing out right now, that a building that's worth 17, we're getting for almost half of that. You're buying it for almost half the cost of it. And it's a historic building on Sunset Boulevard. And it was prophesied 10 years ago from a woman who doesn't even know about Fearless. And she prophesied the name of the church and the street that it would be planted on in LA.
That's insane. Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. The amazing thing about it being on Sunset Boulevard or in Hollywood is like, you just know how many salvations are going to come out of that. We don't know, but we know that there's going to be so many because the spirit in Hollywood is brokenness. There's so many people who chase the dream and then fail the dream, and then through that failure of their own pursuits lead to depression, anxiety, all this just demonic tie into their head where they feel like they failed, which is perfect. That's the people we want. That's the people we want to come into our church and to show the love of Jesus and the hope of Jesus and to be born again and transformed.
And PJ since has gone and done like research on the demographic and the area of where our church is at. And it's an area that's more densely populated with men, which lines up right now with there's a big revival. And it's the first time in like, I forget how long, like 100 years that more men are going to church than women. The demographic of men is like something like 30 to 40. There's a bit of specific number than that. He has it in the Harvest Hands. If you go to Harvest Hands through Fearless LA, you'll see all of this research in there. But even the age bracket is the age bracket that our church hits, like mostly, and it's the same age bracket that like is surrounding the Hollywood area. So even as you start to look into it deeper and peel back layers, you're like, oh, this seems like a divine setup from the Lord of what he's doing here. Now, look, does it mean we've got the building? It doesn't. The building's on the market. Somebody could come tomorrow and just snatch up that building. Like, I want it, you know, and I'll give you the money right now, and they'll take it because they're just business owners. They just want to sell their building.
Sure.
And look, the Bible says man makes his plans, the Lord directs his steps. So we make our plans. We kind of we're discerning what the Lord's doing. Pastor Jeremy's discerning and seeing what the Lord's doing. And then, but if the door closes, it's like, well, God's still in this with us. It's not like you have to feel like you failed. We don't carry the weight of the revival in the city. We're just the hands and feet that want to see the harvest. And so we're just obedient with the next step. And then God does the rest. So it's not like if you don't get the building, you're like, okay, well, God has something better, you know, or God has a better purpose for us. It doesn't mean a better building. Like, I think you have to get wrapped up in who has the best building. It's just about like, what does God want to do with what he's called you guys to do? Yeah. Like, he could be just as effective through the high schools if he wants to be. But I think right now he wants us to have a home. And so he's opening those doors for us. And that's what we're seeing. So, yeah. I'm pumped, man.
And Pastor Jeremy's got this crazy endurance about him where if that doesn't happen, Lord willing it does, if that doesn't happen, Pastor Jeremy's he's going to have another plan and the Lord's going to guide those steps. Yeah, there's really nothing to worry about, just to rest in the Lord.
The endurance comes from, well, we could ask him about it, but comes from having your priorities straight. The priority is not like, I need a building so I can pastor for the next 20 years. The priority is I'm pastoring for 20 years because that's what the Lord's called me to, or 40 years or 60 years. And then however the Lord wants me to do that, I'll do. Yeah. So if you want me to do it through a large church, or if you want me to do it through a small church, if you want me to do it through media or whatever you want me to do, it doesn't matter how you use me, God. I'm just here to be used.
That's good. Yeah.
And so I think that's how you because people, kind of a mentality that slips in the church world is like, I'll serve for this long and then I need to start making my life happen for myself. You know, and you're like, okay, well, it's the wrong mentality. Your mentality should be, now, I know sometimes where that comes from is people can be foolish and like they aren't being excellent in other areas of their lives where they're like not working and they're just serving all the time. Sure. You know, and then you're just being immature that the Bible doesn't even teach you to do that. So like the Bible says, he who doesn't work won't eat, like go get a job and work. And like, but your life should be laid down in a way where you're saying, because a guy the other day said to me, like, I can't believe you've been serving 14 years. Like he's been serving less than a year. And he was like, I can't believe you're doing that. Like, that's just kind of crazy to me and I'm like, what do you mean 14 years? Like I'm serving the rest of my life. My position is a servant. I am a servant. I'm a bond servant of Christ is what Paul writes, right? Like I am here, Lord, to do your will. And you know, what's crazy is like through that, I've seen so much blessing in my life and like, God, you can take it at any point. I'm not married to these things. Would it be hard in moments where things are taken? Of course. Like if one of my children died or my wife or anything, those things are hard things to walk through, but it would never change my position to say, God, I'm a servant no matter what, through and through. So come hell or high water, my position is a servant in God's kingdom because that's the only everlasting eternal kingdom. Nothing else here. Everything else, life is but a vapor. It will disappear. It will go. And you'll be standing before the Lord one day to give an account for what you did with your life. not for how big your retirement fund was, not for how big your house was. Like you won't factor and you won't be thinking about it at all when you're standing before the God of the universe. You'll probably be hiding and cowering, the Bible says, in the rocks, asking them to fall on you because you're so you're standing in the presence of the Almighty. And so I don't, when that guy said to me, I can't believe you've done this 14 years. I'm like, I'm not even counting time like that. Like until he said that, I'm like not thinking like by 14 years, I should be pastoring my own church. Like I'm not, it's not like I have this thing. Like now we should have goals and like trying to be growing in our life, but there's a line between like how you're growing and how the world thinks you should be growing. Right.
Yeah.
The world's like, okay, well, by year 10, you need to have pastoring your own church in a different city.
Sure.
Like, maybe the Lord wants you to be here doing something else in the city, serving with the church. Like the way we mark things in levels of like CEOs, CFO, interns, and like there's all these ladders we climb. It's like God's not working like that. Like somebody that's serving in a soup kitchen on the streets of India is going to be honored greater than some of the largest megachurch pastors in the world. But and people say that line, but you also have to flip that on its head and say it the other way. There are going to be some mega church pastors who are going to be honored greater than even some people serving in soup kitchens. Because if you're serving in a soup, because automatically people are like, of course, the people over there, it's so humble, it's so hard. And you're like, you're absolutely right. But it all depends posture of your heart, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if you're serving in a soup kitchen being like, I'm so much better than those mega church pastors, and your heart is contrite, right? Yeah. And you're dealing with pride, then like, how can God honor you in that? Because you're thinking you're better by doing that. So
and that's a real thing. It's a very real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poverty doesn't equal humility. Poverty doesn't equal, there's like these scales people use. If you're poor, you're humble. And if you're rich, you're prideful. And I've encountered rich men that are humble, and I've encountered poor people that are prideful.
Yeah.
So the scale, it's like, I won't say his name, but I know I don't know if he's hundreds of millions or a billionaire, but somebody who's one of the most humble, sweet men I've ever met, who was the CEO of a massive airline. And he just the way he carries himself, the way he's just sat and just talks with me, so humble, so hungry and eager to learn. Like he would sit there almost be asking me questions about ministry, like he's learning from me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dude, like, like the CEO of, it's just cool. So the spirit you carry and the heart posture you carry is not predicated on how much money you have, right? It just exposes where your heart's really at, right? Like it'll be something that'll kind of show. But anyway, huge historic moment for Fearless and for our church covering is Jesus Missions and this Unfinished podcast and all that we're doing. And honestly, Zach, I haven't even said this to you, but I really think that a lot of what we're doing through Jesus Missions and Unfinished and the series and the film and the documentary and all of these things is going to be so closely tied to our home church. And the fact that we are taking ground in Hollywood and really changing the film industry from the inside out. And a lot of what we're doing through Jesus Missions is film based and production based. And I feel like there's a real synchronicity there between what we're doing and our spiritual covering. And the Lord, I think, is just setting all this up for what he wants to do here.
That's a great point.
And because like, PJ's heart is also like, hey, I want to reach nations. Like, how do we do that? I want to do that. I want to, and again, a big part of what I've said is like, we need to do this through media and awareness. And so we are an essential hub of the world for doing that. And we're going out and we're shooting and we're filming. And so I just think it's all going to be working together. And I think the Lord he knows so much better than we do what's going on here.
Yeah, that's great. He even sending certain individuals to help move that Jesus Missions movement our way through our church and know that what we have going on is a missional hub in Fearless within. Yeah, it makes sense, dude. It does.
Yeah. So it's cool what's happening. So anyway, let's dive into this podcast with Russell Brand. So we're gonna start in. Oh, I needed my Bible. I'm gonna run and get it. I'm still gonna run out this door and grab it. Hold on. I think everybody should get one of these Bibles.
What is it?
NLT. It's a Life Application Study Bible. NLT. I actually got given it on my wedding day. So it says Mr. and Mrs. Richard Munton.
Oh, that's
Like
cool.
how you say it. So, but it's just got all this context for everything you're reading. At the bottom, it's got lots in it. And so it just kind of like every book opens up with kind of like mega themes about the thing, kind of what you're reading gives you context for how it relates to us today. And so it's like if you're reading a book like Numbers and you're like, how am I reading this? The first couple of pages have all this breakdown, vital statistics, key verses, major themes, what the book's trying to do. So when you read it, you actually understand it in a much more like, I don't know, it makes way more sense to you.
Passage that you just read me.
It's from Daniel 11:36. The king will do as he pleases. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and will say unheard of things against the God of gods. Would you like me to continue?
Please.
He will be.
Okay, before we go further, so he's reading Daniel 11. Where did he start? Yeah. So I wonder if I can read this bit back here. So this is the angelic messenger was revealing Israel's future. Yeah, so basically what it starts with is like it starts with a bit of history. I'll give some context to this, and then it gives prophecy to end times. So this chapter 11 of Daniel is kind of like it kind of covers these different periods of time. But you'll listen. I've got a 1.25 speed. So Russell Brand already talks fast. So when you put him at 1.25, he's really fast. But I think it makes it a little more digestible. So we'll
Be successful until the time of wrath is completed. For what has been determined must take place. He will show no regard for the gods of his ancestors, or for the one desired by women. Nor will he regard any god, but will exalt himself above them all. Instead of them, he will honor a god of fortresses, a god unknown to his ancestors. He will honor with gold and silver, with precious stones and costly gifts. He will attack the mightiest fortresses with the help of a foreign god, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him. He will make them rulers over many people, and will distribute the land at a price. At the time of the end, the king of the south will engage him in battle, and the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots and cavalry and a great fleet of ships. He will invade many countries and sweep through them like a flood.
So he's going into verse 9 here, which says, later the king of the north will invade the realm of the king of the south. And this is kind of hard to, like, what is he talking about? And what he's leaning into here is some of like the end time stuff. And he kind of begins to, I think what he is leaning into is that some of this is Trump, right? And some of the stuff with Iran. And there are some prophecies in Daniel 11 that lean towards that, right? Well, it's end times prophecy. So if we think we're in the end times, then it could be that. But also some of this is, some of the study Bible gives a little more context to how some of Daniel 11 is written. So for instance, in verse 2 of Daniel, it says, now then I reveal the truth to you. 3 more Persian kings will reign, to be succeeded by a 4th, far richer than the others. He will use his wealth to stir up everyone to fight against the kingdom of Greece. So you hear this, and you're like, okay, there are 4 kingdoms today. You could think that way, and like, who are those 4 kingdoms? This has already happened. So, well, or it's proposing that it could have already happened. So the 4th Persian king may have been Xerxes, who launched an all-out effort against Greece in 480. So it doesn't miss, which is 480 years before Christ. So, and then Babylon defeated Medo-Persia. Medo-Persia was defeated by Greece under Alexander the Great. So it's pulling in some of the other people, like Alexander the Great's not biblical, but it's in the same timeline as some of these other people who lived. And so it's just telling you some of these things. And then it talks about a mighty king will rise to power and rule with great authority and accomplish everything he sets out to do. But at the height of his power, his kingdom will be broken apart and divided into 4 parts. And so you're thinking like, if you think it the wrong way, you could be like, is that today? Is it happening today? Like one king will rise to power, achieve everything he sets out to do, and to be divided up into 4 kings? Well, in the study Bible, it says the mighty king that it's referring to in verse 3 of Greece was Alexander the Great,
Oh, wow.
who conquered Medo-Persia and built a huge empire in only 4 years. But eventually, Alexander the Great's empire was divided into the 4 nations.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So these 4 weaker nations were comprised of the following regions: Egypt, Babylonia, and Syria, Asia Minor, and Macedonia and Greece. The king of Egypt, the king of the south, was, I don't know how to say that one, Ptolemy, and perhaps referenced in the Ptolemaic dynasty in general. So anyway, it's just giving you context that like some of these prophecies were about stuff that was happening in their time, but then later it gets to prophecies about the end times. So I'm going to let Russell continue. Let me see if it's
what is Russell's, what's his point here for doing this? Just because
he's just reading. Well, it's just it goes into end times, right? Daniel's a prophet. Well, Daniel's one of the most like significant prophets. A lot of his stuff is about end times. And so before I share, let me go full screen. And so I think he's just
pointing out the times. Got it. Yeah.
And I think he's proposing that some of this might be to do with Trump, is what I think. Here.
Rulers over many people and will distribute the land at a price. At the time of the end, the king of the south will engage him in battle, and the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots and cavalry and a great fleet of ships. He will invade many countries and sweep through them like a flood. He will also invade the beautiful land. Many countries will fall, but Edom, Moab, and the leaders of Ammon will be delivered from his hand. He will extend his power over many countries. Egypt will not escape. He will gain control over the treasures of gold and silver and all the riches of Egypt, with the Libyans and the Cushites in submission. But reports from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will set out in a great rage to destroy and annihilate many. He will pitch his royal tents between the seas at the beautiful holy mountain. Yet he will come to his end, and no one will help him.
Ripped from the headlines.
Bam. So some of the end of that says, so if I read some context to some of verse 11, it says, it's talking a bit about the Antichrist. And so it says which in verse 40, it says, then at the end time, the king of the south will attack the king of the north. The king of the north will storm with chariots and charioteers. That's what you heard. He'll set out with a vast army. He'll attack him. So the context of that says the Antichrist in the last days becomes the center of attention from this point through the rest of the book of Daniel. The holy mountain that it references is Mount Zion, or the city of Jerusalem. That's all it's saying there. Let me go back. Anyway, it's just predicting how some of this end time stuff's going to happen and how some of these wars are going to occur from these kings, and predicting what's going to happen. And Tucker had him read it, I think, because he had already read it before they started the podcast, but I think he had him read it again because some of it does very much seem like, who knows what's going on between Trump and his partnership with Israel and attacking Iran, and then how are Russia and China going to play a part in this, and how is the rest of the world going to be pulled in, and does this level out? And there have been so many wars that I think you're foolish to say this is the one, know. But again, so there's kind of two things here. The Bible says we won't know the day or the hour. But then it does say, when you see these things happening, look up, for your salvation is near, or your redemption is near, right? Meaning like the king is going to return soon. So it isn't saying just be so ignorant that you just like walk around. You should recognize the signs of the times.
Yeah.
And we are living in wild times.
And operate as if such, right? Like, be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared, exactly.
Be prepared for that, and be prepared for 100 years from now still.
Yeah, you don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we should be prepared. Okay, let's go into your section here.
Well, I have one more thing, I guess, so to ask.
Yeah, go.
Is some people say Donald Trump is the Antichrist. I don't believe that. But is there an Antichrist spirit working through him in some decisions, or what do you think?
Well, I think anybody can be manipulated by demonic forces, especially if you're not equipped with, the spirit. So I don't know where Donald Trump is on his walk of faith. I know he uses fallen and broken men still to bring his will to fruition.
So it'd be ignorant to say yes. Like,
yeah, I don't think it's but it says like many antichrists have come. Like it says kind of like there will be one antichrist, but there's been many. And because we think about it as this thing, it's kind of more like a spirit, right? Or a thing. People are thinking they're so great. People who are, so anyway.
Sure, okay.
But like there's pretty big specific things that the Antichrist will do, right? Like the abomination that causes desecration will take up his place in Jerusalem. And there's all of these kind of very specific prophecies. So you'd have to like see Trump doing that stuff to be like, that's the Antichrist,
Sure.
So who knows?
Yeah, I just hear this viewpoint from people, and sometimes he just goes through it when hear that. Yeah.
They have Trump derangement syndrome too, right? So,
yeah.
But I think there's been, on the other side of it, I think there were many Christians who were putting way too much faith in Donald Trump.
Totally.
Almost like he was their savior. And God's like, oh, you think that, and then he's like, I'll show you, like, this man ain't perfect. Like, he's.
Well, what about the
picture? Only one savior.
What about the picture that Donald Trump recently posted?
Well, he said he was supposed to be like, it was supposed to be
a doctor, a healer.
Red Cross.
Yeah.
Red Cross. Who knows, dude?
Funny, yeah.
Have you seen all his tweets? I'm not surprised he posted an AI photo like that. I don't think there's too much to it. I think he just posted. I don't think he's believing anyone's going to think he's Jesus if he posts that photo. He's a hilarious guy. He probably had a good laugh about it.
We had this conversation at breakfast this morning with a wonderful person who works for us, and I was telling her about being in church a couple of weeks ago, and somebody got up to read who, I knew a lot about, and was judging so much based on, behavior that we judge or whatever. And this person gets up to read, and I really felt very strongly that God just like spoke to me, which doesn't happen every day. And the message was, you are no better than her. And it makes me emotional thinking about it. And I turned to my wife, who I know was having similar thoughts, or I thought she was. And I whispered to her, I said, we are no better than her. And she goes, I know. And I think that's really at the center of it.
So much instruction. Love your neighbors. Then he removes any limited liability for the category of neighbor. Who is your neighbor? Whoever's in front of you. That's your neighbor.
What do you have here, Zach?
Yeah, I love this. First off, the two of them get it. Like, this is where humility is. It comes from like us as believers. And I've walked this path in my life so much to where when I first was a Christian, or even just a couple of years ago, I've said things bad about the church, other churches. I've said things bad about other Christians. And then I had this moment in my life where a lot of things came crashing down on me through my bad, sinful nature. And over the past year, 2 years, it's just really made me think twice about me and my faith. And now I just look at myself. I need to look inwardly before I start looking outwardly at others and judging and saying this person's got it messed up, or this person, their sin is whatever. And I never took the log out of my own eye. And yeah, just this year, I'm just realizing, like, man, like, as us believers, we need to look inwardly and stop pointing the finger at other Christians who even if some people are wrong, or if some people are in sin, but just look at your life. If you examine your heart, you're nasty. I've examined I have so many flaws and so much sin in me that it's been just this humbling experience to stop pointing the finger at other believers, stop pointing the finger at other churches and what they're not saying, what they're not doing. Because if I was in those shoes, if I became a pastor today, so there'd be so many things exposed where now everyone would be pointing the finger at me. And once that was revealed to me, it's just like brought this level of humility in my life where I actually can love people better now, because I just know I'm broken. I know you're broken. We're all broken in this thing. We all need Jesus. We all need his sacrifice. and his love. And so, yeah, it just helped me love people better. And so seeing these two guys talk about that on a platform like this was refreshing to me, because I think, and I know a lot of believers miss it. They miss this, and I was one of them. And so it's just, we all got to examine our own hearts, and then, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. I think it's just easy. I mean, even especially at their level, you can get to a level where you start to think like, I've got things together, I've got things figured out, or I'm all that. And I think but for any of us, it's like you said, just reminding ourselves, just keep that position of humility, like a servant. Like we were just talking about, like, how long are you going to remain a servant for? 14 years or like 1 year? Or no, that's the posture you keep. If you just keep that posture, I'm humbling myself. He might put me in a position of leadership, but I am in service to God. I am a servant to God through my position. Even the president of the United States can be a servant of Christ, right? The platform doesn't matter. In fact, you might even have to step into a greater level of servanthood in those positions, right? Because you might be asked to do more difficult things. They're going to be on a bigger scale that are going to cause more people harm, more people hurt, or offense, or whatever. And you've got to be like, well, if I'm in true service to God, then I've got to be willing to do this no matter the cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, let's jump into, go.
And we all, when we all come to Christ, not all of us, I know in my experience of finding out who Jesus was and him becoming Lord over my life, it came from a broken place to where I don't have it figured out. I have all this sin in me, and so I need Jesus. But then somewhere along the line of being a Christian, I had this moment where I forgot that, almost like you forgot where you came from. And so then you start pointing the finger and judging others, but you got to realize like everyone else came to the Lord that same way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just taught me this different level of grace. Yeah.
And I believe it is necessary to confront and stand up and stand firm in your conviction, in this case, in my conviction, about the truth of what I have done and what I haven't done. Because as a Christian, we're all forgiven for all of the things we've done wrong. But you don't need to be forgiven for things you haven't done. And there is, of course, in a way, no choice. You say that, I could go to a place where there's no extradition treaty. And in the moments of my worst...
Okay, yeah. So the segment we're in right now is, or that we're about to watch is, so Russell Brand is in a pretty unique place in his life where, he's become a Christian over the past, I think it's probably like 5 years, 6 years, something like that. But he wrote a book actually called Becoming a Christian in 7 Days. But he is, but he's in this weird place in life where he's becoming a Christian. He's going all in, but now he's being accused also of, RAPE to a girl. Right. And he's obviously saying like, this didn't happen. I'm fully, as a Christian, willing to admit all my sins, all my faults, and tell you everything I've done. I'll lay it all out there, but I didn't do this. And he actually has a great point. I don't know if it's in this segment where he says, we are all given forgiveness, and we should all ask for forgiveness for the things we've done, but we shouldn't have to ask for forgiveness for things we haven't done. Mm. And he's like, so he's about to go to trial in a few months for this case. And he's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And he could, like Tucker Carlson suggested to him, why don't you just go to a country with no extradition rights? Meaning like if you went to, I don't know where, but let's say Russia, the United Kingdom can't extradite you and pull you back for your, into the United Kingdom to face trial and go to jail, So, cause you're just safe. Certain countries you can go to, there's no extradition rights. You're safe. You could just live there the rest of your life and never go to jail. But he is choosing to go back for his trial instead of running, basically, because he could just go do that. He's got millions of dollars. He doesn't need anything. He could just go to another nation. But he's choosing to go back to the trial because he's like, I didn't do this, and I'm just going to go face it. And that's what he's talking about in this clip. Let's see if we can get it again.
In reality, Tucker, it says in here, the book of James opens with, we consider it pure joy when we face trials of any kind. And there's no exemption in the Christian life. It's not like, well, except unless you actually do have a trial, in which case, go and get yourself to Bora Bora, quick, smart. Yeah. This is what I'm called to do. This is what I am called to do. This is what we are being called to do. I'm not trying to drag you into my terrible trial with me. I'm saying that your trial, I think is of a comparable nature, because in a sense it's sort of inadvertent that we find ourselves in this position, that you had an enormous audience on Fox and then you become an independent journalist and become even more successful, and you go from advocating for Trump for reasons that are perfectly understandable to condemning Trump for equally evident and obvious reasons. More or less, even if we take personalities out of it, the Iran war, that where does that go for you now? What are you going to be called to do? You will note that most of the people that get called in here are like, no, thanks. I'd rather not. I'd rather not. I've always been a sort of a bit of a glory hunter kind of, that's actually the wrong way to put it. I felt so worthless and inferior as a child, so this sort of unapproved of, unwanted and unloved. That's not to do with my parents. They really did their level best. And then as a drug addict, anyone who's like the kind of drug addict I was, you're moving among poor people, prostitutes, broken people. And all of that time, I felt a kind of an emptiness and a worthlessness. And when my identity was fulfilled, it seemed, at least to me, in a kind of stardom and acceptance and being lauded and applauded and celebrated and loved and given the kind of attention that I thought would work. And it was really quickly meaningless and empty after this beautiful golden moment of feeling like, oh, wow, Lord, you love me. I feel that there is nothing for us to do but to lovingly participate in whatever he puts in front of us. And the examples are alive in here. That all of them are persecuted and often just killed for what they believe in. Normally because at some point they encounter conflict with real power, either the kind of cultural Pharisaic power of the early Christians, or the monarchical, oligarchical, terrifying despotism of the kings of the earlier empires. And for the first Christians, their role was to, well, indeed, isn't the primary character of their conversion, all these people that were willing to look into the eyes of people, including the 12-year-old girl at the fire. And Peter said, I don't know him. I've never met that guy. Where minutes ago he was willing to sort of get in a fight for him. Like that, these people, these men, these ordinary men and women, these ordinary Christians, when they're confronted with a moment where they might have to die for what they believe in, take it. Now, I recognize I'm not standing trial for being a Christian. I'm standing trial according to the lexicon of the British judiciary for the crimes that I've already discussed. But in what this is my opportunity to do is to show that I believe in truth. I believe you can have a justice system because there is a God. If you don't believe in God, you can't have absolute justice or absolute truth. They are, by definition, constructs of the human mind, arrived at using a mind that, by its own belief, is itself an arbitrary system born of chaos. You can't have morality. And when you live in that culture, and most people do, a lot of people seem to anyway, because I'm talking about like a lot of Christians aren't living like, oh my God, this is actually real. And that's of course forgivable. The first Christians had that problem. They found it hard to live as Christians, live as disciples of Christ, yoked to him, following him, eyes on him at all times. This is, for me, a difficult thing. I wish it would go away. I wish it would go away. But what I pray for is the strength to be who I am in him as I walk through it and to go where he wants me to go. I don't want power no more. I don't want the power of being a celebrity or the mayor of London or a Lothario. I don't want that. All I want is to know him intimately. And I forget that sometimes because I'm weak and I'm easily distracted and I'm fallen. But in him, I am none of those things. He made me and you and everybody to know him and love him. And it doesn't all have to be on a big grand global stage in great big trials against a fallen nation. Britain's fallen apart. That's obvious. It's evident. It's on a different trajectory from your country. It's still owned by dark imperial power. And the thing about the idea of participatory direct democracy, Tucker, is I don't care. If I don't want to sit in an office somewhere making decisions, I want to pray all of the time. I want to be with God and I want to be with my children and with the people I love. And to tell people to do what it says in the Great Commission. Tell people in a language that they'll understand, God is real, Christ is real. Stop worshiping the world. You're going to die. You're going to die and it's all meaningless. All of us, evidently, all of us have experienced grief and death. I can't even get through the death of my dog.
The last bit with the dog. But dude, first of all, shout out, Great Commission from our boy Russell Brand. And man, I just thought it was just powerful. And I just love how straight he's like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die one day. Like, and it's just such a reality. I'm like, this is what I sometimes feel like I'm screaming at people is like, this life is but a vapor. Like it's going to pass you by. Like I've been doing ministry 14 years and I'm like, another 14 years, I'll be over 50, another 14 years, I'll be sick. I could just like, it's time just flies. Like before we know it, either you're going to be dead or Jesus is going to be returning. And either way, you're standing before him and you're like, God, I'm so sorry that I didn't have, I wish I knew, I wish I had more time. Just give me a second shot. Like you're going to be like, frick, I could have done more. I think no matter what, you're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
But man, like if you're talking about investments and retirement, the best investment you can make is an eternal one, and get those deposits put into heaven and say, with every bit of me, I'm going to lay my life as a servant. This is why the other day when the guy was like, I can't believe he's serving 14 years. Like, that's crazy. I'm like, dude, I wish I started earlier and I wish I'd done more, because one day I'm going to be, and we don't work for our salvation. It's a gift freely given to us. But the Bible will say, will he say to you one day, good and faithful servant? You were faithful. So it is about being faithful with what you have. And so many of us get caught up in just living for ourselves and living for now, even believers. And we have to be eternal minded. I feel like recently, even in the past like 12 months, man, it sounds so weird to say it this way, I've just become so eternal minded. I just feel like the kingdom of heaven is so near, and it kind of like, it puts the fear of God in me. Like God is coming back and I do not want to be caught idle or lazy or empty-handed. And another friend of mine the other day said to me, you know, like he's like, I just don't see the vision of what like Fearless is doing right now. And I just want to go to like a slower church. And I was like, I guess I just can't understand that mentality. Like if you want to go to a small church, big church, whatever you want to go to. But for me, I was like, I'm looking in my life, I'm trying to look for how can I be more effective at serving Christ, not how can I slow down and like kick my feet up for a second. This is the harvest field. This is not your rest. Like you have to have Sabbaths and rest in your week and like have that cadence that God demonstrated to us of having those moments. Like, but so we don't work from a place of trying to earn, but you do work from a place of God saying the harvest is ripe and the workers are few. And so you're saying, go into the harvest field. There's a harvest all around you. It's ripe for the picking. Go take it. Go like see salvations. He had a commandment to go out. It's the final words he left us with. That's how important it was to him. He could have told us anything. In that moment, he could have said any number of things. Hey, don't forget the tithe. Hey, don't forget the Sabbath. Hey, don't like whatever. But he was saying, go therefore make disciples of all nations. Everything that you've seen me do the past 3 years, I want you to go do that around the entire world. And so today, like there are just so many people that are unreached still and don't have the gospel and are in need. And there are widows and orphans and people sex trafficked and slaves everywhere. And we're supposed to go and be a part of this thing. And no, we have an eternity waiting for us, an eternal rest coming where you will be seated with Christ if you're a servant. But right now, God's asked you, be a worker in his field. Yeah. Be a worker. And so you shouldn't be looking for like, how can I set up a life of convenience? Look, I have a home. I'm blessed with a home. I love it. I love coming home. We were away like 3 nights in a row last week, back to back, like 11 p.m. each night. And by Monday night, we were home and I was like, oh, the kids are asleep. I'm at home. I get to rest. What a sweet moment after just being away for a while. It just feels nice just to relax. But like, I'm not trying to live my life like that. Yeah. Because the other nights we were doing ministry stuff. We were in like leadership meetings and we were doing stuff for Harvest Hands for the building and that we're trying to get. And I'm like, I want to live there. Like, I'm going to rest when my body needs to rest. My mind needs to rest. I'll take moments of rest, but I'm not trying to live and rest. I'm trying to live with the fact that I only have a finite amount of time here left on earth before I go to be with him. And this is my opportunity to work and to show him, God, I am doing everything I can with every breath in me, with every ounce of energy I have in me. I'm here to serve you. And we do that from a place of having a personal relationship with Christ, where you are. Russell Brand had a great moment in that podcast where he just talked about just the idea of just being in constant prayer. And we're just trying to live in that state of just constantly being with the Lord. And all we do, we have dedicated moments of prayer and fellowship where I read my Bible and I do certain things, but then just even right now that I could just still be connected with Christ and saying what he wants to share with the people who are listening. And that's kind of the state we should live in. And from that place, we want to serve our brother and love our neighbor and do these things. And so,
Yeah.
shout out Russell Brand for the Great Commission. You got anything?
Yeah, it was a great video. I guess just whoever's listening, just to tack on to what you're saying, how there isn't much time, not even just because of Jesus's return, but in our lives, there's really not much time. Is the Lord's been saying to me is just be bold in sharing the gospel and be bold with your yes. If there's a moment to serve, like for instance, when we go to these nations, like that's because of our yes. And God has done so many amazing things for others, to us personally, through our yes, and through that boldness of leave. Don't worry about, don't worry. Yes, you got to worry about finances and worry about all these things, but don't, like, at the same time, don't let that stop you from being bold for the Lord and giving your all for it. And that's just changed my life, and it's just needed.
There's, I had a lot of friends. I'm being real ambiguous with my friends today because I don't want to call them out. But there's another friend that was saying, like, that has this all-in mentality. But the all-in mentality is like, I need to be all in this or all in that. And so, like, I can't have a girlfriend or a wife because I'm all in my job. Or I can't. And it's even like a sports mentality. It kind of comes out in sports where it's like, you're not going to be great if you're not all in, and like this kind of thing. But all in, like for Christ, is more of a posture of the heart than it is like a time of day, Like it's not like you got to be like serving 12 hours a day in your church if you're all in for God. And you're like, well, so for people like, I can't live like it's wherever you are in your workplace, in your family, and all these things, like, you're a good steward of the things around you, your relationships, your finances, your work, and all those things. And then it's from that place and from your relationship with Christ that you bear fruit and are a light to those around you and can be intentional with it. So it's not like to be all in or to follow Christ fully, you have to be a full-time missionary, right?
Right.
But you should live missional where you're at, like just have intentionality that I am walking with Christ and I want all people to encounter Christ. And so how can I walk and live like that? And then also 3.4 billion people still do need the word of God. And so they do need workers to go into those fields. And we do need to be praying to the Lord to send workers into his harvest. And so I think that's it for today. Harvest Hands. Go to fearlessla.com. Check out Harvest Hands. Follow Jesus Missions on Instagram, Jesus Missions Global. You can check out the other episodes on this podcast. And more to come from Jesus Missions, going to the Amazon later this year. But we'll talk to you next time. Jesus Missions, the Unfinished Podcast. We're out.